since it's our first Monday, just kind of review what we'll do on Mondays. I'll go back through and give a recap of the game since we've watched the film and evaluated as a staff. Talk about our players of the week from last week, and then just make a few comments about our opponent and then open it up for questions. Just quickly, you know, the game itself from last Saturday against Texas State. Obviously, it's still good to be 1-0 and get that first victory. Several good things that we took out of the game. Offensively and defensively, we want to be able to run the ball and stop the run. 218 yards rushing, held them to 69 yards rushing, was outstanding. Third down, major emphasis on third down. We were 8 of 13, and they were 1 of 13 on third down. We were able to get 3 sacks, 3 takeaways. We scored on defense. Special teams wise, we were 5 of 5 with our PATs. We had a better net punt. We blocked the field goal, so there were a lot of goods. Some of the bads from the game, obvious ones, the interceptions. We had a penalty that took a touchdown off the board. We had some mental errors on defense, fumbled a punt, and a couple foolish penalties on special teams that either extended drives or gave them other opportunities. Players of the game from Saturday, offensively, Raheem Blackshear, a couple touchdowns, did a really good job. I think 22 touches he had in the game, was all over the field. Defensively, Elam Lamore was our defensive player of the game. Elam, again, I think had an outstanding game. He played quite a bit last year, but this is a game that he started and played the majority of the snaps, and really showed that we hope he can be a great player for us. And special teams, Larry Stevens did a great job of covering kicks, punts, and kickoffs for our special teams. You know, after our first game, really feel like we have a really good idea of where we're at as a football team. You know, there's some things that came up, some issues that came up that we think we'll be able to get fixed fairly quickly. We understand our strengths and weaknesses a lot more after we played a game. We had a lot of young players play. We have a pretty good idea of what they can and can't do, and what we need to do to try to help them get better and improve. Just looking ahead here to next week, obviously we're going to go play a very, very talented Ohio State football team. They jumped out of the gates quick last week against Oregon State and beat them pretty soundly. They've got speed at the skill positions. They've got size up front on both sides of the ball. They've got a very good quarterback. The team is built exactly like you'd want to build a team. 4 years in a row, Rutgers and Ohio State have played in 4 years, and hasn't been much of a game. So it's our job to go over there and try to play the best that we can play, and play a lot better than what we've played, especially here in the last couple of years. We're going to have to go over and protect the football, protect the quarterback, and be able to move the ball offensively. You know, defensively, we're going to have to stop the run. We're going to have to get some takeaways and not beat ourselves. And those are some things that we've done the last couple of years on both sides of the ball in this game against this opponent. So tremendous challenge, tremendous opportunity, one that we're definitely looking forward to measure and stick to, again, measure improvement, and go out and just play as fast and as violent and as consistent as we can. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up for questions.
Do you have any updates on Bless on Austin?
No updates. Like I've said before, policy will be on injuries. I'm not going to talk about them unless it's a long-term deal, like T1 Masons is a long-term deal. You know, guys that are potentially week to week, day to day, won't make any comments unless something's going to put them out for a while.
Chris, regarding Urban, have you talked to him throughout the entire process? And then knowing that he's coaching during the week but not on game day, how much of an influence do you think he's going to have on the game plan and what the Ohio State team that you're going to see on Saturday?
You know, just out of respect for people involved in a whole situation, I'm going to avoid any comments about Coach Meyer and the situation, and not being there, being there. I got a lot of opinions and thoughts and people I care about involved in the whole deal, and I'm going to avoid any questions about that.
What about his influence on the game? Because I mean, we kind of saw it with Kyle back in 2015, where he was suspended, but then he schemed and game planned and was here during the week. What type of impact do you think that he'll have just on game planning the game?
I've never been in that situation before, so I can't comment on what that's even like, to be honest with you, from a staff standpoint. He's the head coach. He's very involved in a lot of aspects of the program, so I would assume he'll be heavily involved in game planning. But again, I'm not there. Never been in that situation before, so it's hard for me to make any comments about it.
Does it change anything in terms of maybe in-game kind of the analytics or such of what the tendencies that might be called, particularly on fourth downs or going for it and stuff like that?
Yeah, again, guys, I'm going to refrain from making any comments about Ohio State. You know, if you want to talk about our team, we can talk about our team. If you want to talk about what we see from their players, but in terms of making comments about Coach Meyer and him being there or not there, I'm not going to do that. And hopefully you guys respect that.
Chris, will you look at film from last year's game much, or are you just focused on last week's film?
No, both. We will look back. We always look back at common opponents from last year and look at things that we did well, things we didn't do well, how did they attack us. We'll look at those things. But there are a lot of new players on the field for both sides, but especially for them. There are a lot of new players. So we'll look at a lot of game one here, but we'll go back and look at a lot of games from last year, including ours.
What is different with the new players this year for Ohio State? What do you see from that first game?
Well, they're talented. You know, that's the number one thing that stands out. Again, they've got size, they've got speed, they play really hard, they're physical. You know, that's what stands out. When you recruit really well, you develop really well, and you go to bowl games, you get those extra practices. When one guy leaves and another guy steps in, there's really, you know, not a lot of drop off. And that's been the case at Ohio State for a number of years, and that's the case, you know, still, you know, right now today, based on what I've seen from last Saturday's game.
John McNulty and Greg Schiano worked together, obviously, for a lot of years here and then over in Tampa. I'm wondering, that relationship, is that an advantage either way? John knowing Greg's defense and Greg knowing John's offense, is that an advantage either way?
Well, I would say no, because it's a completely different situation. You know, what Greg does defensively is what he does because of the players that he has today, not what he would have had, you know, whether it be in Tampa or here at Rutgers. What John does offensively is based on the players that we have here at Rutgers today, and not what would have been here years ago or what they had in Tampa or what he's had at other NFL stops. So no, I don't think that that is necessarily bad. It's still about the players that they have, that we have, that can go out and execute calls. You structure what you're going to do offensively and defensively around the now. There are philosophical things that people believe in that you're going to, you know, carry with you wherever you go. But there are certain things X and O wise you've been able to do one year in one place that you can't do at another. So I don't look at it that way.